YouTube, we're talking about the Auburn versus North Carolina game that's going to be taking place this Friday. New Year's Eve, a very strange matchup. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, where we're always talking about Auburn football. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger War Eagle. A lot of moving parts to this Citrus Bowl that Auburn has found themselves twisted up in. Of course, we talked about already Brian Harsin, the brand new head football coach for the Tigers, won't be coaching this football game. He made that clear, and just doesn't make sense anyway. I mean, you're coaching around guys that you may or may not retain. I think it's just a good look to kind of just admire this thing from afar. So many moving parts. You don't know which coordinators are going to be kept. You don't even know what players are going to be there after all this stuff is said and done. But let's talk about Northwestern real quickly. Now, Northwestern is a team that has been kind of up and down in the career of Pat Fitzgerald, who's been there for about 15 years. They're led by Peyton Ramsey. Strangely enough, a cross-conference transfer from Indiana. He's had arguably a lot more success at Northwestern than he had at Indiana. Really raking some yards in, especially considering an abbreviated season. Northwestern has 23 points that they average per game. They only give up 15 points per game. One of the most intriguing stories about the Northwestern Wildcats is the fact that they're coming off of a nice turnaround season. Last year going 3-9, turning that thing around and finding themselves in the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State with a viable opportunity to win that game. You look at Auburn, on the other hand, that have kind of limped their way into a 6-4 season, including huge losses to Georgia, Alabama, and giving up the big game against Texas A&M. Found their head coach, Gus Malzahn, fired on the chopping block, looking for another gig. Or he might decide to chill out a little bit and be an addition to the SEC network or maybe ESPN, because he does kind of talk a good game at times. So that might be a spot for him moving forward. But back to Auburn. Auburn has suffered some major injuries. You talk about KJ Britt, who was injured. Tank Bigsby, the star running back, SEC Freshman of the Year, who has battled injuries. Christian Tutt, who probably was going to sit out of this game anyway, battling injuries. The offensive line basically depleted somewhat with injury. Looked like they were going to get off to a pretty good stretch, but injuries took a huge toll. Then you talk about the idea of where's the motivation for this game going to come from. You already, usually, especially in the SEC, if even in New Year's 6 games, you have players that opt out and decide not to play. Now we're looking at the Citrus Bowl. 3 guys have already opted out. Tank Bigsby is a possibility that he won't play because of the whole COVID-19 deal. And of course, how do the coaches get motivated? Because there's some who probably have in the back of their minds, come Monday, I'm not going to be here. So it's a very strange scenario for the Auburn Tigers as they go into this football game. What could the potential motivation be? Well, this is not necessarily a motivating factor or a motivational type situation, but I kind of want to see how Bo Nix responds to all this. What is his role as a leader, assuming that he's going to continue his leadership role as the quarterback once Brian Harsin's offense is implemented? I think he could be successful in that particular offense. But then you got on the other side of the field a team that is very motivated, in my opinion. I don't see why they wouldn't be. 3-9 last year, turning it around now in a could have won the conference championship, arguably. Now facing an Auburn team out of the SEC who has at least a respectable tradition of relative success, in my opinion. I mean, no, Auburn is not necessarily on the level of, Alabama, of course, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, the blue bloods of college football. But Auburn has had a relative amount of success to where if you beat a team like Auburn, that's something to feel good about, I think. Especially if you're a Big Ten team who fallen apart last year, turning it around. You have a lot to play for. Also, if Northwestern wins this football game, that puts Pat Fitzgerald in his 15-year career, that has him ranked at the end of the season for the second time, only the second time in his career. I think this is something that Northwestern can definitely build on, because I think it will be a huge stain to this turnaround season if Northwestern winds up losing to a very depleted Auburn team. I think this is one that they need to figure out a way, even though I'm a Auburn fan through and through, but I'm just looking at this from a non-biased perspective. If you're Northwestern moving forward program-wise, I think this is a program signature win at this moment for Northwestern. So these guys have a lot to play for. I think Auburn is in a little bit of trouble in this one. I'm going to do my prediction show on tomorrow, but just a lot of intriguing interweavings of what could be a very interesting game. And then you talk about the aftermath after this game is over. That's going to be even more intriguing. Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast Talking Auburn Football. Like the video, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. War Eagle.